It is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus. Remember to download the ProBox TV app where apps are available to get the full ProBox TV experience, which includes our European debut. November 1st from Belfast, Northern Ireland. It is going to be a spectacular card here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. McCrory versus Carrillo, the main event from Belfast, Northern Ireland. And right now in Belfast, Northern Ireland, ahead of that great fight card, our champions. We have Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, with the year 2024 closing down or coming to a close in boxing, it's been a move to create a strengthened Tank Davis card by shifting it from December 14th to early 2025. The second half of the U.S. boxing schedule of 2024 is closing on a kind of lackluster note there. O'Shaquie Foster getting his rematch against Robson Conceição in Verona, New York, and December 7th, Navarrete versus Valdez in Phoenix. While in Saudi Arabia, you have the rematch of Usyk and Fury on December 21st, and then the Latino night on November 16th in Saudi Arabia. Golden Boy Zudo Ramirez going up against Chris Billum Smith, Jose Ramirez, Arnold Barboza, and El Camarón, William Cepeda going up against Tevin Farmer. So, Paulie, let me ask you this. What's being lost by these moves here where maybe things are strengthening a little bit in Saudi Arabia and the U.S. card, U.S. fights coming to an end, not as strong as people would like? What do you think is being lost here with the U.S. market?
I just think it's scheduling, really. I'm not sure that anything's being lost. I mean, look, Canelo just fought, Anthony Joshua just fought, Usyk and Fury's scheduled end of the year. You've got a few, decent fights here. I believe John Ennis is fighting sooner than Bam Bam, right? When is that unified? When is that main event, co-main event tilt? November 9th, right? What is that? That's coming around.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that actually is the same night we have a ProBox TV event ourselves on November 9th. Yeah, you could say, some things have moved over to Riyadh or whatnot, but I'm not sure. I mean, besides the Tank Davis fight, which you have moved from December to January, that card itself, because the fight itself to me is not that interesting, but the card itself is. Besides that, I mean, honestly, it's I wouldn't say it's something crazy. Yeah, they save some of the blockbuster fights for the end of the year. You save some of these big matchups for the end of the year. But, I believe Naoya Inoue also fights at the end of the year, right, champ? You know that better than me, right? Naoya Inoue is on the 24th of December.
Yeah, Sam Goodman. He's got it. It's a big fight.
That's also, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think it's crazy thin. It's a solid schedule. It's just not all in the United States. We're used to having everything in the United States. We're used to having everything in Vegas, right? And maybe some late year Vegas blockbusters or whatnot. But you've all of a sudden I'm naming off some fights. I mean, you've got Ennis on November 9th with Bam Bam, right? Then you've got November 16th, you've got the Latino night. You've got early December Navarrete. You've got Usyk and Fury the 21st. You've got a couple of days after that, you've got Naoya Inoue. I think even after that, I think might be something in Australia, right? Or no, I'm not even sure about that. Actually, no, because Tim Tszyu got beat, so that's sort of out the window. I mean, it's a decent schedule. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think what we're talking about here is probably maybe the American schedule itself, because the Inoue fight's in Japan and the heavyweight fight is in Riyadh. So yeah, a little bit, it dwindles down a little bit the American market, but that's sort of what it's starting to become anyway for the rest of the year, not just the late year part. But you're still getting, dude, I mean, you've been getting some good fights this year. We've had a solid year, honestly. We've had a really solid year in boxing, I think, with some really good fights, including on ProBox TV. Maybe everybody just taking off for the holidays.
Chris, what do you make of the U.S. boxing schedule here compared to some of the fights that are being made outside the United States?
I'm gonna take what Paulie said. I'm gonna run with it. I think this schedule is just fine. I mean, yeah, U.S. boxing. What does that mean? What is the U.S.? We all watch boxing. It's a global sport. It doesn't matter if the fights are happening here. People don't go to the fights anyway here. So what does it matter if it's in the U.S. or not? We watch the fights. You just rattled off a bunch of good fights that are happening. Fury Usyk is a rematch of a fight of the year type epic fight. Fantastic fight. excellent that it's happening this year. Naoya Inoue fighting Sam Goodman, another amazing, one of the best fighters in the world, one of the pound for pound greats today is fighting, and he's fighting on Christmas Eve, which I love. I love the fact that I'm going to be able to wake up and watch Naoya Inoue and then open some presents. I think it's fun that we do those early morning fights over here. Or I'm going to be there regardless. That's going to be a good time. I actually think that the Navarrete fight is Navarrete Valdez rematch is actually a good fight. I think in terms of where they are in their careers, the fight's actually a lot better than the first fight. So it's another good fight that's on the card. And Robson Conceição and Foster having their rematch of a very, very disputed first fight. I think it's important. It's important for the 130-pound weight class to see who's going to be the champion after that fight, and to see if we're going to need a rubber match or if we're just going to move on from there. But no, I disagree. I don't think that. First of all, I don't think talking about the U.S. market or U.S. boxing is important thing to talk about. This is a global sport. We're all going to watch it. And like I said, American fight fans don't go to fights anyway. It's not like it is over here or in other parts of the world. But in terms of the schedule, I think there's plenty of good fights.
So let me ask you this about Turki Al-Sheikh, because there's reports coming out that his wealth fund is pivoting away from international investments, and that could affect boxing or him promoting fights or putting on fights in the United States, like what happened August 3rd with Terence Crawford and Israel Madrimov. Chris, how much do you think that will impact fights being made on U.S. soil, the fact that Turki Al-Sheikh might have to withdraw some international investments?
Well, I mean, it seemed like they were pretty hesitant to come here anyway, and from all reports that I've heard, they totally took a wash on that August 3rd fight in LA. LA is a tough place to put on a fight, so choosing that as their first location probably wasn't a great idea. But regardless, they were resistant to traveling anyway, and they wanted to build up the fights over in Saudi, which I understand. I mean, it's why move if you don't need to? If you're paying for everybody, we bring them over. It is what it is. And again, we're all going to watch it. Is it going to affect the future? No, we had one fight here. One fight that Riyadh season did over here. Are we going to see any more? Probably not. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. It doesn't make that many ways, but it is going to pull fights. But listen, it's going to pull fights that weren't going to get made anyway. So they're making these fights that weren't going to get made over here. They're just making them over there. Regardless, we're watching them. So I'm not mad about it.
Paulie, what are your thoughts about the reports that Turki Al-Sheikh has to cut back on international investments and how that might impact fights on U.S. soil?
Yeah, I mean, it impacts fights on U.S. soil, but I think the fact that there are more global stars from outside the United States is always gonna, have that possibility. For a while, the U.S. was sort of a feeding market, right? It was different than any other country, the boxing market in the U.S., because you have American fighters and then everybody else's fighters from other countries come to the U.S. and they fight each other here. I mean, how many times did you get really good main events in boxing on the world level between two guys that were non-American in America, right? So the U.S. market was sort of a feeder for a lot of foreigners as well, a lot of foreign world-class fighters as well. So we've gotten used to that being the case. I thought it was always advantageous for foreign fighters more so than it was for American fighters, because for American fighters, when we would go to foreign countries, we would a lot of times back in the old days, we would just get their TV money and that was it. While when foreign fighters came to America, they would get the American TV money and they would also get their domestic TV money as well. They would get paid twice, So I always thought that was advantageous to the foreign fighters that come into America. I thought it was a little bit unfair to us American fighters who, only got one of those checks. I can remember Prince Nassim Ahmed making a boatload like that, Ricky Hatton making a boatload like that from getting the Sky money and the HBO money. But I think overall, I mean, if this changes, I mean, listen, it was good while it lasted, right? I mean, you've got two checks. Also, TV channels nowadays are globalizing and becoming one. The Zone, ProBox TV itself is one big channel, So you're losing the options to get two checks anyway. So once you lose the option to get those two checks, what ends up happening? I mean, okay, let's just stage the fight where it's most convenient then. There's not that extra boatload of money anymore coming in, right? So I can see how this and why this has been shifting around a little bit. Now you just go to where, to whoever's paying for it, to whoever is giving the fight the best home, so to speak, as far as finances are concerned. You've got to still, we talk about that sometimes there's too much of a hunger for money, but at the same time, there still has to be enough money to make these fights happen. And as long as they're happening, like the champ said, I mean, these are probably fights that wouldn't have happened unless Riyadh season made them happen anyway, right? So it's better they happen over there than they don't happen at all. And that's sort of been what we've been seeing.
Yeah, sometimes the business of boxing can be as interesting outside the ring as it is in the ring, the action in the ring. And of course, Turki Al-Sheikh has kind of become central to all of that. And of course, any other developments when it comes to Riyadh season and fights on U.S. soil, we will bring them to you here on Top Stories. And don't forget, scan the QR code, like, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel. Download the ProBox TV app, or apps are available in a couple of days' time. The European debut of ProBox TV, November 1st, live from Belfast, Northern Ireland. Main event, McCrory versus Carrillo, Jimmy Smith, Chris Algieri, and Paulie Malignaggi will be ringside in Belfast for the call of that card. Should be fantastic. November 1st, live from Belfast, Northern Ireland. You can watch it on the app and on YouTube as well. I'm George DeMatteis, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
November 1st, ProBox TV makes its European debut in collaboration with Conlan Boxing. This stacked card starts with hometown fighter Padraig the Hammer McCrory returning to the ring to take on the hard-hitting Colombian Leonard Carrillo. And in the co-main, the UK's Robbie Davies Jr. clashes with former two-weight world champ Javier Fortuna of the Dominican Republic. Live from the SSE Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.